Okay. Let's just let ourselves land in the room. Just let all your senses take in the room around you. And let's just anchor ourselves deeper and deeper in this moment. I'm sure a few more people will probably roll in the next couple of minutes. So for anyone just coming in, we're just kind of letting the dust settle a little bit. Just kind of sit back in your chair. Let your senses take in the room. Be where you actually are. Let every inhale be like a homing mechanism for all the parts of you that are still running around your workday, or running around whatever you have going on after this. Pull it all into this moment. I think tonight is going to be a back to the basics kind of night. We've been getting very heady, and I think it's important to constantly return to the obvious simplicity of what we're doing here. Because meditation is very simple. It's the most logical, obvious choice that almost no one makes in life. You know, what is meditation? We've said so much about it over the years. You know, there's an experience that I think probably everyone on this planet has had, right? Like, it's that experience of you have a problem, and that problem has pushed you up against a wall where you usually know roughly what you need to do to fix the problem, but you have all of these reasons why you don't want to do that. And so you are stressed and stuck in your head and just spinning on your inner hamster wheel, right? I think every human has had that experience. I think it's how most of us spend our days. But I also think most of us have had that experience where you get pushed so far in that direction that you're actually forced to drop all the stories you have around that thing you don't want to do and just shut up and do it. I think we've all had those moments where, you know, it's like, oh my God, I don't want to write this, and I've been pushing it off forever, and I've spent 2 months putting it off. And then at some point, something happens where the pain you associate with having it still on your plate is greater than the pain you associate with forcing yourself to do the thing you're telling yourself you don't want to do. And so you end up in that moment getting very clear. In that moment, you leave this place where you've been just spinning these stories about all the reasons you're not going to do something. And then you suddenly just, the seas part. And it's like, okay, why don't I make an outline for what I'm going to do tonight? And then tomorrow I'm going to wake up and I'm going to get started on X, Y, and Z. And it's going to suck. And maybe that's just okay. We're just going to let it suck. You know? And suddenly there's this clarity and everything opens up. And it doesn't mean things are easy. It just means you've stopped resisting. You've allowed a shift to occur in you from needless resistance that is causing you nothing but suffering to a willingness to just open up to the only obvious choice in front of you. You know, I watch people go through this with childbirth who like really have their heart set on a natural childbirth and they have to wrap their head around a C-section. And they're super, super upset about it until at some point you just can't stand to be upset about it anymore. You would rather just wrap your head around a new storyline. Or people who can't get over the death of a loved one, you know? And they grieve and they grieve and they grieve and they're so upset about it. And then this moment comes when they want to be done grieving. It's time to be done grieving. And the storyline changes. You know, the person is gone and that's painful, but maybe the pain of that loss is acceptable. Maybe I can live with that and move on. Or it happens with chronic pain sometimes. You know, I've told you the story a million times of, you know, the pain I had from having spinal meningitis and having to sit with a straight spine in meditation, and that moment where suddenly it's like, okay, maybe I can stop fighting this and just maybe it's okay to be in blinding, like excruciating pain. And in that moment, there's a complete reset. In that moment, everything shifts and the pain often disappears. And you just do what you have to do. In school, it's, you know, okay, all right, maybe I'm going to have to pull an all-nighter to get this done. And then once you resolve yourself to it, it's just a completely different storyline. You know, what all of these moments have in common is that they're all about you being stuck inside a story in your head, a certain way of seeing things, a bunch of ways you think things need to be. And that storyline is creating a certain amount of static in your life, a certain amount of misery in your life. Now, in all of these moments, you get to a place where the misery of having the story becomes greater than the misery you associate with letting the story go. And because humans will always go after pleasure and avoid pain, the second that tipping point happens, you will automatically find yourself doing what you need to do. Letting go of the story. And forging ahead in the simplicity of the choice in front of you. That's the heart of meditation. The only difference is in meditation, we don't wait. We don't wait for that moment when the pain is just so great that nothing else is going to help but to let go of the story. You know? To walk around with low-grade neurosis just because it's low grade is not worth it. Meditation, you let go of all of it. Every bit of it. You leave the story behind just to show yourself that you can every single day. And you just unfold into the moment in front of you. You just unfold into the sanity of this moment. You know, you may still have a million balls up in the air in your personal life, but you're stepping out of that system of stories because it's your right to do so. Because the fact that most people will never do that is insane. For any of you who have never done that, let me tell you, the first thing you're going to realize when you do it is that what's so hard about your life is not the fact that these things are happening, but the story you're telling around them. The meaning you're assigning to everything. The villains you're casting. Meditation is an invitation to let go of all of it. And not to do it as life's puppet, right? Not to just be part of the machinery of life, but to actually choose to learn how to just do it. Even in moments where things aren't terrible. Now, anyone who's spent any time in the meditative state can attest to the fact that the meditative state is actually more comfortable than even the things you call pleasant in life. Sometimes at first, your personality fights. And so you might have a little bit of a battle in you to sit through. But that's okay. If you just shift your attention in the way that we teach you, that'll pass. But meditation is an invitation out of the story of you, out of the story of your personality, and into the experience of you as consciousness. In the beginning, it's all you can do just to not get pulled into another story. And so in the beginning, meditation looks like an absence of something. It looks like a vacuum. It looks like nothing. But a comfortable nothing. That if you spend a little time there, you find you sleep better, you feel a little bit better. It kind of causes some physical improvements and some surface mental improvements. But the more time you spend practicing, the more you learn how to make a home in that place so that the mind, the personality, isn't constantly pulling you into another story. You're not figuring out what you're going to have for dinner afterwards. You're not going back and complaining in your head about something that happened at work. You have this kind of buffer around you that your practice gives you that allows you to start just exploring that meditative space, not as the negative of the story, not as the absence of the story or the opposite of the story, but as its own thing, on its own terms. And that's something that actually really can't even be spoken about in any meaningful way. It's kind of beyond the mind. It's purely experiential. But it happens just the more you learn to abide in that state. And I don't mean abide for hours. I mean, if you can sit in that space for even 15 minutes, I don't mean sit on a cushion for 15 minutes. I mean, of your meditation time, spend about 15 minutes where you are primarily outside of the system of stories. At first, you'll be aware that there's something very special about it, but your eyes aren't really trained to understand what you're seeing. But the more the more time you spend there, just like an infant learns how to distinguish what it's seeing, you'll come to learn how to experience that space. And what you'll find there is a vast, vast ocean of exploration. Not even worth reading about it in a book, though. You have to experience it yourself. In classes like this, there's nothing to take my word for. You have to get there yourself and see it. People have been teaching this for thousands of years. You have to cultivate a healthy curiosity as to why. Why would someone like me devote a decade of my life to just this? It's not for a good night's sleep. There's a deep, deep key to you, hidden in the experience of you, which is meditation. So I invite you to cultivate a healthy curiosity about this. Even those of you who have been coming every week, you always need to find ways to renew that curiosity. We relight the flame each week. Your job is to keep it burning. So how do we do this? Let's go over it again, just for anybody new. How do you step out of the stories of your life? Well, whatever you place your attention on in this life, that's where you are. Okay? Wherever you're looking, that's what you're playing with. That's what's expanding. That's where you're generating cycles of things you're going to have to deal with. So the way you step out of it is through a shift in the attention, a sustained shift in the attention. It can be on literally anything. You have to breathe all day long, so in this class, we teach you to do it with the breath. So you become the watcher of your breath. The personality part of you can only take over when you are not actively making a choice. It takes over when you stop paying attention, causing you to shift and shift and shift your attention. So what we do is we choose one thing, like the breath, and you just give your attention to that. As you inhale, you're right there with that inhale. As you exhale, you're right there with that exhale, riding it all the way down, feeling your lungs expand, feeling your skin expand, feeling that little shift as oxygen enters your bloodstream. How much of the breath can you see? And you just make a choice to give yourself to watching the breath. And when the personality comes back in to pull you away to some habitual story, you just don't follow it. You just return to the breath. Return to the breath. Return to the breath. That simple practice of returning to your chosen point of focus will build up the muscle you need to be able to abide in the meditative state. At first, it takes a little bit of concentration, but concentration is not meditation. You start with concentrating, where you have to really kind of focus to not wander, to stay with the breath. But as you're doing that for a little while, you start to notice this kind of peripheral silence building up around you. Sometimes you can even hear it like a ringing or see it like a brightening of the light in the room. Sometimes you can feel it as a vibration on your skin. We all experience it a little differently, but it's all the same energy. It's the energy of silence, stillness. Concentration gets you to that. It starts to build that up around you. And as it starts to come, just notice it. At first, just notice it. But after a little bit of time of concentrating on returning to the breath, what's going to happen is you're going to start to feel comfortable. That stillness, that silence is going to start to feel comfortable. And when that happens, you want to make this little shift from clinging to the breath to abiding in the breath, abiding in the silence, making it your home. It's a subtle shift, but that is the shift that takes you from concentration into meditation. And from there, the practice is, how long can you abide in your home before you have to activate concentration again? How comfortable and quiet and still can you be in your meditative state? How balanced on that wave of meditation can you be before you have to resort to concentration again to keep your mind from wandering? The more time you spend in meditation, the more you get to actually experience the vastness of what you are. So, we watch the breath. Simple enough. You breathe in, you breathe out, and nothing else. We also place our attention high in our body, right here at the forehead and crown. And that just stimulates some glands that help coordinate our body and relax things a little bit. And what I mean by that is nothing more esoteric than if you were to scratch your forehead and the top of your head, you're kind of aware of a lingering feeling. That's what I'm talking about. Just allow an awareness to be up there while you watch your breath. Now you live with your eyes open. And we don't want meditation to be separate from your life. So we're going to keep our eyes open. And what you're going to do is just let them fall to a spot on the floor in front of you or on the desk in front of you. And just anchor them there to kind of get them out of your way. But don't close your eyes. That's a different kind of meditation, and that's not what we teach here. This meditation is meant to be integrated into your life. Okay, so that's it. You're going to become the watcher of your breath. You're going to return to your choice until you can abide there. You're going to keep your eyes open, but anchored on something in front of you. And you're going to keep your attention high in your body at the forehead and crown. Are there any questions about that before we go into it? Okay. Then let's get started. Attention at the forehead and crown. Eyes on something in front of you. And just begin to breathe. Nothing to force or manipulate. Nothing to achieve. Just the choice of returning to the breath, returning to the breath, returning to the breath. And just let everything else go. Let the mind be the mind, nothing to resist or push away. Let the body be the body. Let the room be the room. Let it all take care of itself. You be the watcher of your breath. Whatever's pulling on your attention, give it to the breath. Your discomforts, your busyness, your angers. Open up, yield it all to the breath. What if I just let go of my resistance and made the breath my home? What if I just stopped fighting right now? What if I just choose to be comfortable, breathing in, breathing out, and nothing else? What if I just chose the comfort of that simplicity? And let everything fall silent. So I can be with what's left when I've let go of the stories. What if I just let go in what I came here to do tonight? That's good, but find your center. Otherwise, you're going to fall asleep. Watch the breath. Gently. Not too tight, not too loose. And the window will open again where you can rest there the way you just did. Now, some of you, even though you're doing it, you're going to feel the intensity go down a little bit. And that's not something you're doing wrong. There's an ebb and a flow. And the idea is to maintain your focus in both phases. When the wind is at your back, abide with the breath. And when the wind dies down, abide with the breath. Don't put conditions on it. Can you renew your focus? Can you sit here as fresh as you were when you first sat down? As willing? Good. No need to create a story out of time. Why limit it? Okay, let's come out. You're a powerful group tonight. There's a whole world to explore there, where you stop as a personality. There's a whole world to explore. Your personality is the tip of this giant iceberg of what you are. And all you have to do is spend time in that space. The more time you spend there, it's almost like a battery charging, only that battery expands in size when it's full. There are these thresholds, and at a threshold, your personality will come forward and insist that you stop. It will insist that you do anything other than remain with your chosen point of focus, because it knows that if you take another step, you're going to become something different than you currently are. And it'll fight and it will kick. And if you can just stay there and get through that fighting and kicking, everything will blast open and you will be able to perceive life through a completely different lens, a larger lens. And that process just continues. I have not found an end to it. It just expands and expands and expands. For most people, the first gate is the gate of boredom. And you start telling yourself that, like, there's nothing here. There's no reason for me to keep sitting here. I have stuff I have to do. I'm too busy for this today. If you can sit through that, all you have to do is remain. All you have to do is abide. And if you can just maintain that willingness, you'll see for yourself. On the other side of that resistance, there's a massive realm of realization. You can read about a lot of the realizations in books, but you get nowhere doing that. You have to actually see it yourself. And you have every tool. So, this week, give yourself in that way for 15 minutes a day. If you're going to suck at it for 15 minutes. But you can see it's no different, that shift from concentration to meditation. It's no different than any of those moments where you suddenly came to the point of, all right, I'm going to do it. And you just did the thing you were resisting because it was too painful to stay where you were at without changing. With meditation, you just have to find the same mechanism. I find questions work. What if I just let go of all of it right now? What if this feeling is okay? What if this is all there is for eternity, and maybe that's okay? Little questions like that, I think, open things up a bit. They invite rather than force. The subconscious responds well to invitation, especially invitation that has feeling attached to it. But this week, give me 15 minutes a day. and try and see if you can get from that place of concentration shifted into meditation. See if you can experience that shift at least once a day so that you know where it is. Any questions or any comments or anything at all? You can speak or you can put it in the chat. You guys did really, really well tonight. It goes to show you there's no such thing as a beginner teaching. You know, whenever I hear a spiritual path talk about its advanced teachings, I always know there's a game being played. You're the advanced teaching. You just have to rest into yourself. Okay, everybody, I'm going to let you get back to your night. I will be here again next week. You're welcome, Sarah. I'm so glad you could make it. Come next week if you want. And I will see you all in 7 days.